Hey everybody, it's Robbie from Detroit Driver, and today we're going to look at two awesome cars, the Bugatti Chiron and the Bugatti Veyron. We have them lined up side by side in identical specs, so we're going to look at them, talk about the differences, and really dive into the evolution between the Veyron to the Chiron. Now, I'm a huge fan of the Bugatti brand. I absolutely love them, probably my second favorite behind Ferrari. Just the history, the luxury, and the technology that this brand incorporates into all of their vehicles is amazing. At the end of last year, I was very fortunate to be able to purchase this. This is the Lego Technic Bugatti Chiron set. I built it, and in the near future, I'll probably make a video on that because that's not what we're here for today. So let's jump right into this comparison. It's going to be awesome. So we're here outside of Miller Motor Cars. They are one of the official Bugatti dealers here in the United States, located in Greenwich, Connecticut. As of last publishing, there were 34 Bugatti dealers in the world, 13 in the US, I believe. So here, we're very, very lucky to have two amazing cars side by side. The Bugatti Chiron, which we see right here, and the Bugatti Veyron 16.4 Grand Sport. What's super cool about this is that they are identical specs. They're both in this silver color, they both have a tan brown interior, and chrome wheels. So this is the absolutely coolest comparison we could ever hope for. So let's start over here with the Bugatti Veyron. So actually the Bugatti brand has been around for a very, very long time. They started in the early 1900s and they're founded by Ettore Bugatti. Now, Bugatti had an awesome race history up through the 1930s, and then it kind of stopped when World War II broke out, as most of the world did. Unfortunately, after the war ended, they didn't really have any funding for Bugatti. So eventually the company just kind of collapsed, and sadly Ettore Bugatti passed away. It wasn't until the 1990s where Bugatti really made sort of a comeback with the launch of the EB110. Following that, in 1998, they were acquired by the Volkswagen Auto Group, and then they started to develop the project, which later turned into the Bugatti Veyron. Now, one super interesting fact is that the original design for the Bugatti Veyron, or at least one of them, was called the EB16.16-4. That car was actually launched 3 places in the world: at the Paris Auto Show, at the Geneva Auto Show, which is arguably one of the best auto shows in the world, and then here in Detroit at the North American International Auto Show. So that's kind of just a very special Detroit kind of involvement with Bugatti, and one that I'm super happy to be a part of. There are 4 variants of the Bugatti Veyron. The original 16.4 came out in 2006, but this is not the 16.4. This is the 16.4 Grand Sport, which is the roadster version of the 16.4. So actually, we can get closer here and see this line separating the windshield from the roof, as well as another line back here. So this roof is actually removable. We can also see here that it is glass, so you can see through it. Now, unfortunately, the roof cannot be stored in the car, and it kind of requires 2 people to take it off, but this was a huge next step to the Bugatti Veyron series. There were only 150 Bugatti Veyron Grand Sports made. This is very rare. Out of the 450 Bugatti Veyrons that were made, only a handful of them were the Grand Sports. Now, as we move on, we can see here that both cars have this iconic Bugatti horseshoe grille with the logo in the middle. This has been part of Bugatti's cars for seemingly ever, and it's really cool that they've kind of kept that heritage as they moved on through the development of their cars. The Bugatti Veyron is most famous for its land speed record. So in the third variant of the Chiron, or excuse me, the third variant of the Veyron was called the Super Sport, and this is what actually broke the record for fastest production car. So I think it was something around 270 miles an hour. So absolutely crazy. Ever since then, Bugatti has been just a name brand. When you think of luxury, when you think of fast, it comes to Bugatti. Now, speaking of luxury, a lot of people might not know this, but Bugatti's actually more of a luxury brand than anything else. Their attention to detail, the quality of the materials is basically comparable to a Rolls-Royce. So when it comes down to it, the newer Bugatti cars are more like a Rolls-Royce quality luxury mixed with the performance of, a Ferrari. So in a lot of aspects, the Bugatti is the best of both worlds. Now, when it came out, the Bugatti Grand Sport started at $2 million. Very rarely can people actually afford that, but it was definitely worth the price to the lucky owners of these cars. Just some quick facts to spit out about it. The car goes 0 to 60 in 2.7 seconds and has a max speed of 253 miles an hour. There's 1,001 horsepower spit out by this W16 engine. What is a W16 engine? It's okay if you didn't know, because Bugatti is the only car in the automotive industry that incorporates this type of engine in their cars. Essentially, it's two V8 engines placed next to each other. So, absolute power, absolute monstrosity. Let's move on. The symbol on the back is a backwards E and a B, which stands for Ettore Bugatti, and he was the founder of Bugatti. So that's just a nice little touch to him. Now, some more little facts. The Bugatti Veyron was named after Pierre Veyron, who was a racer for Bugatti from the 1930s through the 1950s, and he won many races for them. Now, as we finish up looking at the Bugatti Chiron, or the Bugatti Veyron, my bad, we can look in the interior. Absolute attention to detail. Look at the leather. It looks comfortable. You would never be able to, in any other car really, get this performance with this luxury. You can drive this car around the streets of any city comfortably at 20 miles an hour, and then you can take it to the racetrack, if you can even find one where you can get over 200 miles an hour, and this car will do it no problem. Lastly, it is reported that Volkswagen actually lost $6 million per unit on the car, despite the multi-million-dollar price tag. Now, that's very hard to believe, and why would a supercar brand even do this? Or a brand in general? Well, a lot of supercar technology is actually obviously developed at very high costs. So the only reasonable way that this technology even makes sense to go forward with is with these limited edition, super high performance, expensive cars. But a lot of the learnings from these supercars are actually then passed on to more everyday economical cars. So it makes sense for a huge group like Volkswagen that even despite the losses on the individual vehicles, in the long run, they probably gained so much knowledge from the development of the Veyron. So that's just kind of an interesting fact. But let's move our way over to the Chiron. So the Chiron originally debuted in 2016. It is the direct predecessor of the Bugatti Veyron. As we can see here, it has some resemblance, but obviously looks very different. I am personally a huge fan of the styling of the Chiron. I think it looks amazing. It's wide, it's low, it's aggressive, and just like the Veyron and the rest of the Bugatti brand, is very luxurious. So we can make our way around. Just some specs about the Bugatti Chiron is that these start at roughly $3 million. So that's over $1 million jump from when the Grand Sport was released. Again, we have that EB symbol on the back, and we have the horseshoe grille on the front, but we can see that the back ends of these two cars look completely different. So it's a nice little change as well. They both have these active rear spoilers, which pop up at certain speeds and when certain demands are placed on the car to create drag or change the direction of airflow. Again, it is powered by a W16 engine, but this one has 1,500 horsepower, and the car produces 1,180 pounds-feet of torque. It goes 0 to 60 and a little quicker at 2.3 seconds, which is still just mind-boggling, and has an electronically limited top speed of 261 miles an hour. Now there's 5 variants of the Chiron: the Chiron, the Chiron Sport, the Chiron Sport 110 On Edition, which was a tribute to 110 years of the Bugatti brand. Then there's the Pure Sport, which is made more for cornering, so it has a kind of different wing on the back. And then the Bugatti Chiron Super Sport 300 Plus. Now, the Bugatti Veyron Super Sport set the production land speed record, but then it was broken by the Koenigsegg Agera RS. Recently, Bugatti reclaimed the throne with the Bugatti Super Sport 300 Plus, so it reached a speed of 304 miles an hour. We can't even comprehend, a car, let alone a car that's as luxurious as this, going and reaching speeds like that. Now, a lot of people, especially those outside of the car industry or even the supercar industry, question what's even the purpose of that. And honestly, at this point, there really is none. Even if you can afford one of these cars, you can afford to go to any racetrack in the world that you want. But those speeds become super unrealistic, so it's more just for publicity than anything. The Veyron was fast enough, so why was the Chiron, meant to go faster than that? It's really a great question. Bugatti, because the Veyron was so popular and so just absolutely groundbreaking, they had a lot of pressure for the Chiron. How do you outdo something as iconic and as important to the car industry as the Veyron was? So, obviously the styling's a little different, the interior's updated, but, what else could really be different? And I recently read something which was very interesting, that in order for the Bugatti Veyron to have reached its top speed, it needed to basically be tested on Volkswagen's racetrack in Germany. And with that, basically there's part of the track that bends, and the Bugatti Veyron needed to hit that bend at 125 miles an hour. And then following that bend, there's a long straight. So in order to reach its top speed, the Bugatti Veyron needed to kind of go in that turn at 125 miles an hour, step on the gas, and just wait for it to reach that. The Bugatti Chiron on the same track can start from 0 miles an hour, reach 250 miles an hour, and back down to 0 miles an hour before the end of the track. So the Bugatti Chiron can go 0 to 250 miles an hour and back to 0 3 times, at basically a third of the distance that the Veyron requires. I think that is such an interesting metric and show how the performance in the last 10 years has differed and has improved between the two cars. One last thing about the design of the Chiron is that it has this iconic C shape, which is a tribute to some of the older Bugatti models. I believe the Type 57 SC, which is one of the most, or SC Atlantic, which is one of the most sought after collector's cars of all time, but that's a different story. What's very interesting is that C on the outside actually carries to the inside with this huge LED light strip. So that is a really cool touch if you ever get the chance to see a Chiron in person and really look at that. I have never had the chance yet to see a Chiron in person. I'm still waiting. There's been one in the Detroit area at our local Bugatti dealer and at the auto show, but I unfortunately wasn't able to see it. I've seen 3 Bugatti Veyrons in the Metro Detroit area, but all of them, at least 2 of them were 16.4, and I'm not sure if the other one was a 16.4 or the Grand Sport. I don't remember. I'll have to look at pictures. But regardless, just look at these 2 cars. Anything else about the Chiron? Well, there's only 500 of them being made, so 50 more than the Veyron, but still super limited numbers. It was named after Louis Chiron, who was another famous race car driver for Bugatti back in the day. One interesting fact is that the Bugatti Chiron uses a lot of carbon fiber. If you laid out all of the strands of carbon fiber, one end to another, they would wrap around the Earth 86 times. That's roughly 2.15 million miles of carbon fiber strands. So that's pretty cool. As far as Bugattis in North America goes, roughly a quarter of all Bugatti sales happen here. So the North American market is a very large market. On the Bugatti Chiron, they actually had to add these really ugly bumpers to be US crash legal. Luckily on this one, they've taken them off because they're absolutely hideous. But if you get a Chiron in the US, they kind of have to come with that in order to be legal. Anyways, let's quickly look around the rest of the Bugatti showroom. All Bugatti dealers are kind of designed like this, very simplistic, very modern, and touches of blue. Blue is a very important color for the Bugatti brand and is pretty historic when it comes to their models and design. We see here that they have some more models and some screens everywhere, which is pretty cool. Now lastly, we'll kind of end our tour by talking about this. This is the Dancing Elephant, which is a tribute to Rembrandt Bugatti. Rembrandt was the younger brother of Ettore Bugatti, the founder of Bugatti, and he was a sculptor. So this elephant was actually one of his most prized pieces, and as a tribute to him, Ettore had him make 6 smaller models and put it on the front ends to become a hood ornament for his famed Bugatti Royale. So that's just kind of another nod to the history of the Bugatti brand. I really hope you loved this video. We learned a lot about the Bugatti Chiron and the Bugatti Veyron and just about the Bugatti brand in general. If you wouldn't mind, I would really appreciate it if you could like, comment, and subscribe. I really value your feedback and your opinions on my video. I look forward to doing more car reviews, more virtual inventory tours, and hopefully get out in the real world soon and do some real car reviews and events. So stick around. I really am thankful for you watching to this point, and I cannot wait to see you next time.